Factorizing the easier trinomials. Now, I'm sure most of you have some sort of a method or steps or a procedure that you got from your teacher when doing these trinomial factorization. If you still remember those and you're comfortable using those, it's more than fine. Use them. It's perfectly good. If you can't remember your teacher's method and you now don't have a method to do this, I'm going to teach you my method, then you can use that. The steps will be pretty much the same from teacher to teacher, but just the wording and the setting out of the steps might be a little bit different, but you will see that the procedure stays more or less the same. So the steps are factors, Hebrew, fill in, and the plus minus rules. I'm going to discuss this now. I just want to start with step 4 because this is a difficult step, and in the whole procedure, if I explain this, it gets a bit confusing. But if you already understand the most difficult step, then you're fine to understand all of the steps as a global process. So I'm going to start with number 4. Now, when factorizing, what I do is I take a trinomial like x squared plus 5x plus 6, and I factorize it into two brackets. Say for instance x plus 3, x plus 2. I'm going to teach you this now. To do this whole procedure, I'm just talking about the pluses and minuses at the moment. Now the first thing you look at to decide the plus minus rules, you follow to decide what the signs in here should be by looking at the signs here on top, from the thing that you factorize from. So the first thing you do is you look at the second sign there, and if this sign there is a plus, then you know that the signs in your brackets are going to be the same. By that I mean a plus and a plus, or minus and a minus. So if this sign there, you first look at the second sign. If this is a plus, then you know that the signs in your brackets are the same. If this sign is a minus, then you know that the signs in your brackets are different from one another, meaning it's a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus. Now why you first look at your second sign is because the first sign tells you different things depending on whether the second sign is a plus or a minus. So if the second sign is a plus, then I know the signs are the same, and then the first sign there, I'm just going to use another color pen quickly, then this first sign there will tell me what they are. So if they are the same, I know it must be two pluses or two minuses. Then that one tells me whether it's two pluses or two minuses. So I look at that sign and I know, oh, it's two pluses, or oh, it's two minuses. All right. So then that tells me that. If this second sign is a negative, then I know I have different signs. Then what you see doesn't really make sense because I have two different things. So if I have a minus there, then these two signs are different from one another. And then this sign, if I work on this side, goes with the bigger number. Okay, I'm going to also explain here now with this. All of the, you see I've written you examples with a plus and a plus, a minus and a plus and a minus and a minus, specifically with the goal so that we can quickly look at the signs. So know this plus minus rules. I'm going to just keep them there for a second. I'm gonna first, when I start following these steps, the first thing I'm going to do is fill in. There comes the fill in. I'm going to decide the factors and fill in. I'm going to come to that now. I'm just going to do it for you quickly. So assume you know how to do that. Then I know all my numbers and variables already. Okay, so say for instance I finished now with step 1, 2, 3, and I just want to look at step 4, the plus minus rule, so what happens to the signs. So then I first look at the second sign. If it's a plus, these two signs are the same, and that one tells me it's a plus and a plus. It's the same, it's both pluses. Do you see? And in the second example, I first look at the second sign, and this tells me these two signs are the same, but now because of that first sign, it's both minuses. Can you see these two? The signs are the same, but there it's pluses because of that one, and there it's minuses because of that one. Alright? And for these ones, I first look at the second sign. This tells me that I have different numbers in here, and then plus goes with the bigger number. What I mean by that, I look at the two numbers 6 and 1. The bigger number is 6, so the plus goes with that and the minus goes with the 1. Look at this example, it's the same thing, but now a minus there. So this one tells me I have different signs in here, then that one must go with the bigger number. So between 6 and 1, 6 is the bigger number, so minus, can you see, goes now with the bigger number, and then plus goes with the smaller number. Right, so that's how the signs work. I first look at the second sign. If the second sign is a plus, I know these signs are the same, and then that one tells me what they are. Or if I look at the second sign and it's a minus, I know these signs are different, and then that one goes with the bigger number in the two brackets. You will already, when you get to this step, have numbers in there. Right, so let's start from the beginning. Hopefully you understand the plus minus rules. I think I'm going to use these same examples, and then I'll do some other ones also. Let me just rewrite this quickly. If I have that, this is now the same example over and over again, just with different signage. So you will see the steps. I'm going to pretty much repeat all the time what's happening, but it's ideal because you can also compare how the steps work exactly, and then I will do some other examples for you also. So finding the factors, what I will do is I look at this last number and I find the factors of that in pairs. So I know 6 times 1 gives me 6, and 3 times 2 gives me 6, and that's all. So those are the factors. I look at this number there and I find that factors. Now Hebrew is a language, the second step. I'll quickly explain what this means and implies. Hebrew is a language that we read from the right to the left. English and Afrikaans and Sotho and Xhosa and all of the languages that we use in South Africa, we read, when we write something in that language, we always read from the left side to the right side. But Hebrew is an ancient language that was used years ago, like 2,000-3,000 years ago, and in Hebrew they wrote the language from this side to that side, and you also read from this side to that side. So with this step Hebrew, I want you to go and read this sentence from the back, and I want you to specifically look, when you read the Hebrew, specifically look at this number, this sign, and that number, not really the x or that sign or that x squared. I'm going to read from the back, and you look at 3 things: the number, the sign, the number. And how I read this is the factors of this that I add to get 5. In this sentence, I will read the factors of 6 that I add to get 5. In this sentence, I will read the factors of 6 that I subtract to get 5. the factors of 6 that I subtract to get 5. Say for instance I'm just going to show you one other example. Say for instance I have minus 8x plus 12. Let's make it 7, sorry. Oh, 8 would have worked also. So in this sentence I'm going to read the factors of 12 that I add to get 7, and the first step already asked me to get these factors in pairs like that. 12 times 1, 6 times 2, 4 times 3. So then if I read this from the back, the factors of 12 that I add to get 7, it's quite easy to get them. The factors of 6 that I add to get 5 is 3 and 2. So this is how the Hebrew step works. Is I just read from the back and I specifically look at the number, the sign and the number. You will see how this makes a difference when I get here to these two examples. And then the third step is I go and fill in. Now with factorizing I'm aiming towards getting 2 brackets, and I fill in. I might go and make the 2 brackets. I fill in an x and an x, which if I multiply is going to give me that. And I fill in these numbers that I found and circled now in the previous step. And then I'm ready to go and follow my plus minus rules. So my plus minus rules, I first look at the second sign. If that's a plus, I know these are the same, and that tells me it's both pluses. And then I'm done with all 4 of the steps. Okay, let's quickly look at this one. Say for instance I have to factorize this. It's going to be the same pairs of factors the whole time because the 6 is there every time, but I'm just going to do the whole procedure for you. I find the factors of this last number, and then Hebrew I'm going to read from the back. So the factors of 6 that I add to get 5 will be 3 and 2. And then I'm going to fill in this numbers with the variable that I'm working with. I'm working with variable x. If I have y squared minus 5y, I will just go and fill in a y and a y there. So I go and fill in that, and then I follow my plus minus rule. So I first look at the second sign. This tells me the signs in here are the same. They are both negative. And I'm done. Let's look at the third example. Now you will see how the difference comes in with the Hebrew step. So I first find first step the factors of 6, which is 6, 1, 3, 2. And then the second step Hebrew, the factors of 6 that I subtract to get 5. You see in the previous one I had to add to get 5, then 3 plus 2 gives me 5. But now the factors of 6 that I subtract to get 5 is 6 minus 1. So can you see that I now use another pair of factors because of the Hebrew step, and that's why I do this Hebrew step, to make sure I've got the right set of numbers. And then I can go and fill them in. Third step. So I have x and x. Now I have 6 and 1 that I work with. And I follow lastly my plus minus rules, which works as follow. So I have a negative here, which means I have different signs in there. And then, so it's either a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus, if that makes sense to you. Now, how should I put it in? Then this tells me the bigger one must be a plus. So between 6 and 1, 6 is bigger. So 6 must be a plus, and 1 must then be a minus. If I put minus 6 plus 1, I will get the wrong answer. Let me quickly just multiply this out in my head for you. I'm hoping to use your head with me. If I multiply the x and the x, it gives me that x squared. If I multiply x and negative 1, it gives me minus 1x or minus x. And if I multiply these two, I get plus 6x. So plus 6x minus x is 5x. and then plus 6 times minus 1 is minus 6. If I said a plus here and a minus here, I would get plus x minus 6x, which is then negative 5x and not plus 5x, which I need in my equation. That will come in the next example. Let's quickly look at that. I'm going to find the factors of 6. And then the factors of 6 that I subtract to get 5 will be 6 and 1. I can fill that in. Hopefully you're comfortable with the steps by now. And my signs are different. The bigger one is negative, so 6 is negative and 1 is positive. You see, if I swap them around, this is how it will affect the equation. You can go and multiply them out and test that. Right, now all of these examples looks pretty much the same, so let's just do something different so that you can see if you can pull this knowledge through to anything else. Say for instance now I have x squared plus 12x plus 20. So the first step, I'm going to find the factors of 20. So 20 times 1, 10 times 2, 5 times 4, yes, and that's all. You will see I always write the bigger one of the pairing first. That's just because when I have to minus, it's easier to minus 20 minus 1 than to minus 1 minus 20. So that's why I write it like this. But if the signs are all positive, it's not really going to have an effect. Right, so that's the first step, the factors. The second step, Hebrew, the factors of 20 that I add to get 12 is 10 and 2. Can you see? I add 10 plus 2 to get 12, and then I can go and fill that in. So I have x10 and x2, and I just leave space for my signs in the brackets, but I fill in the 10 and the 2. And then plus minus rules, the signs are the same, they're both positive, and I'm done. Easy. If you feel you've got the hang of it, write down the next one, pause the video, try on your own, and then just play to see if you worked correctly. Alright, so I'm going to take first the factors of 32. I'm going to list them here. 32 times 1, 2 times 16, 3 doesn't go in, 4 times 8 gives me 32. 5 doesn't go in, 6 doesn't go in, 7 doesn't go in, 8 goes in, but I've already got that. So there's everything. Now the factors of 32 that I subtract to get 14. So I can test if I want, but I can immediately see it's these ones. But 32 minus 1, 16 minus 2, 8 minus 4. Can you see that it's going to be 16 and 2? That was Hebrew. The factors that I subtract to get 14 would be 16 and 2. And now I can go and fill in. Lovely. So I've got x, 16 and 2. And the signs are different. The bigger one is negative. So 16 is negative and 2 is positive. It's not a problem if you have 2 in this bracket and 16 in this bracket. So for instance, you got yours like this. You have 16 in this bracket and 2 in that bracket. That's fine, but then the signs are different. The bigger one is negative, so 16 is negative and 2 is positive. It's fine. Can you see if you swap the brackets around? But the signs must just be correct. So the 16 must be with the negative and the 2 must be with the positive, if you understand what I mean. And then I'm finished with this question. Alright, again, if you feel like you know what you're doing, try to pause the video and do it on your own, but watch out for this one. This is easier one, so don't make it difficult for yourself. But keep in mind, I don't usually have a number there, so try and do this. Let's make that a negative. Okay, 2x squared minus 24x plus 40. Pause the video, see if you can do on your own. Okay, so what I want to do before I even find the factors is I see there's a 2 there and it's bothering me, but it's not a big problem because all of these numbers can be divided by 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the 2 as a common factor, leaving me with x squared minus 12x plus 20, and then I'm going to factorize this as normal, but don't lose the 2, just keep it there. So I'm going to keep the 2 there and factorize this 3 term as normal, like that. So step 1, I'm going to find the factors of 20, like that. And then the factors that I add to get 12 would be 10 and 2. And I have x10 and x2. And my signs, I keep my finger there and I run through the steps like nothing else. Find the factors, then Hebrew the factors that I add to get 12 is 10 and 2. And then I can go fill in, which I did. And you see how I automatically run through the steps because I've done this so many times over and over and over in exactly the same way, that it becomes a habit. I don't even really think about the steps anymore, but it's good to start with the steps and then until you get the procedure in your head. And then the signs, so these are the same, both negative, like that. Alright, last one. Let's look at x to the power of 4. X to the power of 3, sorry, minus 16x squared minus 36x. Right, now the first thing that's bothering me here is that I'm used to x squared x and no x, and what's happening here? There's an x extra everywhere. X extra. There's an x extra everywhere. So what can you do? Take out that x as a common factor. I'm hoping you guessed that. And then if I take out that x, I'm left with a perfect x squared minus 16x minus 36. I go find the factors of 36. 36 times 1, 18 times 2, 12 times 3. There's so many of them. 9 times 4 and 6 times 6, and that's all of it. Okay, and then I'm not going to lose this x, just keep it there. And then I'm going to factorize this bracket into 2 brackets. So I found the factors, the Hebrew step, the factors of 36 that I subtract to get 16. Now if I look at this and I think I'm subtracting pairs of numbers, I know that 18 minus 2 will give me 16. So I'm going to fill in now the x and the x and the 18 and the 2. Doesn't matter which side you fill in the 18 and the 2, just fix the sign so that it goes with that perfectly. And then my signs are different. The bigger one is negative, so 18 must be negative and 2 must be positive.